Let us discuss the unit number 1 of second PUC chemistry, that is solid state. From the exam point of view, this chapter covers 7 marks. In the question paper, there will be 2 marks question, which is question number 11, and there will be 5 mark question, which is question number 27. Okay, as we all know, there are 3 states of matter, namely solids, liquids, and gases. Solids are called rigid bodies because of their disability to flow, and this rigidity is due to the fixed positions of their molecules. But the liquids and gases are called fluids because of their ability to flow, and this fluidity is due to the free movement of their molecules. Solids have definite mass, definite volume, and definite shape, and this is due to the fixed position of their particles, short intermolecular distances, and strong interactions between them. Fluid and rigid nature of matter depend upon the nature of particles and the binding forces between them. Intermolecular forces keep the molecules or atoms or ions closer, but the thermal energy keeps the molecules or atoms or ions apart. General characteristics of solids. The solids have definite mass, volume, and shape. They have short intermolecular distances. They have strong intermolecular forces. The solids have the particles with the fixed positions. The solids are incompressible and rigid. Let us discuss the classification of solids. They are classified into mainly 2 types based on the nature of order of arrangement of particles in them: amorphous solids and crystalline solids. Amorphous solids contain particles arranged in an irregular pattern, but the crystalline solids contain particles arranged in a regular pattern. Let us discuss the differences between amorphous solids and crystalline solids. Amorphous solids have irregular or indefinite shape, but the crystalline solids have regular or definite shape. Amorphous solids have no sharp melting point, but the crystalline solids have sharp melting point. Amorphous solids are isotropic in nature, but the crystalline solids are anisotropic in nature. Amorphous solids have short range order, but the crystalline solids have long range order. Amorphous solids are also called pseudo solids or supercooled liquids, but the crystalline solids are called true solids. Examples of amorphous solids are glass, rubber, and plastic, but the examples of crystalline solids are sodium chloride and quartz. Amorphous solids are isotropic in nature, and this isotropic nature is due to uniform arrangement of particles in all directions. Hence, the properties of amorphous solids like mechanical strength, refractive index, and electrical conductivity are same in all directions. Crystalline solids are anisotropic in nature. This anisotropic nature is due to the different arrangement of particles in different directions. Hence, the properties of crystalline solids are different in different directions. The solids which look like amorphous but have microcrystalline structures are called polycrystalline solids. Example is amorphous silicon, which is a photovoltaic material and can be used for the conversion of sunlight into electricity. The glass objects of ancient civilizations look like milky, and this milky nature of wood glass objects is due to the crystallization process. Classification of crystalline solids. They are classified into four types based on the nature of intermolecular forces or bonds. They are molecular solids, ionic solids, metallic solids, and covalent solids. And the forces present in crystalline solids are van der Waals forces, ionic bonds, covalent bonds, and metallic bonds. Molecular solids contain molecules as their particles. Again, there are three types of molecular solids, namely nonpolar molecular solids, polar molecular solids, hydrogen bonded molecular solids. Nonpolar molecular solids contain atoms or molecules held by nonpolar covalent bonds or weak dispersion or London forces. Examples are argon, helium, hydrogen, chlorine, and iodine. These solids are soft and non-conductors of electricity. They have low melting points. Polar molecular solids, they contain the molecules held by polar covalent bonds or stronger dipole-dipole interactions. Examples are HCl, SO2. They are the soft and non-conductors of electricity. Their melting points are higher than those of non-polar molecular solids. Hydrogen bonded molecular solids contain polar covalent bonds or strong hydrogen bonds between hydrogen and fluorine, oxygen or nitrogen atoms. Example is H2O. They are non-conductors of electricity. They are volatile liquids or soft solids. Ionic solids contain cations and anions held by strong Coulombic or electrostatic forces. Ionic solids are hard and brittle in nature. Ionic solids have high melting and boiling points. Ionic solids are electrical insulators in the solid state because the ions are not able to move. But ionic solids conduct electricity in the molten state or when dissolved in water, which is due to the free movement of ions. Metallic solids contain positive ions surrounded by and held together by free or mobile electrons. And these free and mobile electrons are responsible for high electrical and thermal conductivity of metals. Metals have luster and color due to the presence of free electrons in them. Metals are highly malleable and ductile. Covalent or network solids contain atoms of nonmetals held by covalent bonds. Here, covalent bonds are strong and directional in nature. Covalent solids are also called giant molecules due to their bigger structure. Covalent solids are hard and brittle in nature. They have extremely high melting points. They are insulators. Examples are diamond and graphite. Graphite as a covalent solid. It is a soft solid and a conductor of electricity. In graphite, carbon atoms are arranged in different layers. Each carbon is covalently bonded to three other carbons, leaving one more electron free to move. And these free electrons make graphite a good conductor of electricity. The layers in graphite can slide one over the other, and hence a graphite is a soft solid and a good solid lubricant. Crystal or space lattice is the regular three-dimensional spatial arrangement of lattice points. Unit cell is the smallest part of a crystal lattice which generates entire crystal when repeated in different directions. Lattice point is the point in a crystal occupied by a particle, which may be atom, ion, or molecule. This is the three-dimensional picture of crystal lattice and its unit cell. The characteristics of a crystal lattice. Each point in a crystal lattice is called lattice point or site. Each point in a crystal lattice indicates a particle, which may be an atom or molecule or an ion. When lattice points are joined by straight lines, it gives geometry of the lattice. The characteristics of a unit cell. A unit cell has three edges A, B and C. A unit cell has three angles between the three edges. They are called alpha, beta and gamma angle. Thus, a unit cell is characterized by totally 6 parameters, 3 edges, namely A, B and C, and 3 angles, namely A, alpha, beta and gamma. Types of unit cells. There are two types, primitive unit cells and centered unit cells. Primitive unit cells contain particles only at the corners of a unit cell, but the centered unit cells contain 8 corner particles and one or more particles at the position other than corner. Centered unit cells are of three types: body centered unit cells, face centered unit cells, end centered unit cells. Body centered unit cells contain 8 corner particles and one particle at its body center. But face centered unit cells contain 8 corner particles and one particle at the center of each face. And end centered unit cells contain 8 corner particles and one particle at the center of any two opposite faces. There are only 14 possible 3D lattices. These are called Bravais lattices. Among these Bravais lattices, most important are cubic and triclinic. Most symmetric crystal system is cubic, which is having A, B and C edges which are equal and the angles which are equal to 90 degree. The angles are alpha, beta and gamma. Examples of cubic crystal systems are NaCl and ZnS. Most unsymmetric crystal system is triclinic, where all the edges are not equal to each other and all the angles are not equal to 90 degree. Examples are potassium dichromate and H3BO3. Okay, let us calculate the number of atoms in a primitive cubic unit cell. Primitive cubic unit cell contains 8 carbon particles. Each particle is shared to 8 unit cells. Hence, the contribution of carbon particle is 1 by 8. So, the number of atoms in the unit cell of simple cube is equal to 8 into 1 by 8, that is 1 atom. This is a picture of simple cubic unit cell where each corner atom is shared between 8 unit cells. Can now calculate number of atoms in a body-centered cubic unit cell. This BCC contains 8 corner particles and 1 atom at its body center. Thus, in a body-centered cubic unit cell, 8 corner particles are there and their contribution is 1 by 8, that gives 1 atom, and there will be one body-centered particle and the contribution is 1 and the atom is 1 atom. Therefore, total number of atoms per unit cell in BCC is 2. Number of atoms in a face-centered cubic unit cell. In FCC, there will be 8 corner particles and 6 face-centered particles. Thus, in FCC, 8 corner particles and their contribution is 1 by 8 and the number of atoms will be 1, and there will be 6 face-centered particles and their contribution is 1 by 2 and the number of atoms will be 3 atoms, and hence the total number of atoms per unit cell in FCC is 3 plus 1, that is 4. This is the picture of unit cell where an atom is shared between two unit cells. Let us discuss close packing arrangement, that is close packed structures. First, we need to know what do you mean by close packing. The arrangement in which maximum number of particles occupy minimum space is called close packing arrangement. And there are 3 types: close packing in 1 dimension, close packing in 2 dimensions, close packing in 3 dimensions. Okay, let us know about close packing in 1 dimension. In 1D close packing, an arrangement of particles is in a row where each particle is in contact with each other. Here, each particle is in contact with 2 of its neighbors. The number of nearest neighbors of a particle is called its coordination number. Thus, in 1-dimensional close packed arrangement, the coordination number is 2. This is the close packing in 1 dimension where atoms are arranged in a row. Okay, let us know close packing in 2 dimensions. In 2D close packing, the rows of close packed structures are present one above the other. This is done in 2 different ways. In the first method, we are going to place second row of particles exactly above the first row, both horizontally and vertically, and this type of arrangement is called AA type of arrangement. Here, each particle is in contact with 4 of its neighbors. Thus, the coordination number in 2D close packing arrangement is 4. If the centers of 4 particles are joined, then a square will be formed. Hence, this type of arrangement is called square close packing, that is SCP, in 2 dimensions. This is the picture of square close packing. And the second way of close packing in 2 dimension can be done by placing the second row of particles above the first one in a staggered manner. That is, the particles of second row fit in the depressions of the first row. In this type of arrangement, first and third rows are of same type, that is A type. The second and fourth rows are of same types, that is B type. Hence, this arrangement is of ABAB type. Here, each particle is in contact with 6 of its neighbors, and hence the two-dimensional coordination number is 6. If the centers of these 6 particles are joined, a regular hexagon is formed. Hence, this packing is called two-dimensional hexagonal close packing, that is HCP. Okay, among HCP and SCP, HCP has less free space, and hence HCP is having more efficient packing than SCP. In HCP, there are some voids called empty spaces which are triangular in shape, and the triangular voids are of two different types. In one row, the apex of the triangles are pointing upwards, and in the next layer downwards, which can be seen in the picture. Okay, let us discuss close packing in 3 dimensions. In 3D close packing, 2D layers of particles are present one above the other, and there will be formation of holes, tetrahedral holes and octahedral holes, which can be seen in the picture. And now, if the number of close packed particles is n, then the number of octahedral voids generated will be is equal to n, but the number of tetrahedral voids generated is equal to 2n. Okay, let us discuss packing efficiency. Okay, first we need to remember what do you mean by packing efficiency. Packing efficiency is the percentage of total space occupied by the particles. Packing efficiency is equal to volume occupied by the spheres in the unit cell divided by total volume of the unit cell. Okay, let us calculate packing efficiency in simple cubic lattice. If the edge length or side of the cube is A, the radius of each particle is R, then A is equal to 2R. Total volume of the simple cubic unit cell equals A cube, which is equals 2R to the power 3, and that is 8R cube. The number of atoms per unit cell in a simple cube is 1. Hence, volume of one atom in the simple cube is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube. Therefore, packing efficiency is equal to volume of one atom in simple cube into 100 divided by total volume of simple cubic unit cell, which finally becomes equal to 52.4%. Here, vacant space in simple cube is 100 minus 52.4, that is 47.6%. Hence, the packing fraction in simple cube is 0.524 and the vacant space is 0.476. Okay, let us calculate the packing efficiency in BCC. If the edge length of the cube is A, radius of each particle is R, then A is equal to 4R divided by root 3. Total volume of the BCC is A cube, which is equal to 4R divided by root 3 to the power cube, which equals 64R cube divided by 3 root 3. The number of atoms per unit cell in the BCC is 2. Hence, the volume of 2 atoms in the BCC is equal to 2 into 4 by 3 pi r cube, which is equal to 8 by 3 pi r cube. Hence, packing efficiency is equal to volume of 2 atoms in the BCC into 100 divided by total volume of body centered cubic unit cell, which finally becomes equal to 68%. Here the vacant space in BCC is 100 minus 68, that is 32%. So the packing fraction in BCC is 0.68 and vacant space is 0.32. Okay, let us calculate packing efficiency in FCC. If the edge length of the cube is A and the radius of each particle is R, then A is equal to 4R divided by root 2. Total volume of the face centered cubic unit cell is equal to A cube, which is equal to 64 R cube divided by 2 root 2. The number of atoms per unit cell in the face centered cube is 4. Hence the volume of 4 atoms in the face centered cube is equal to 16 divided by 3 pi R cube. Therefore, packing efficiency is equal to volume of 4 atoms in FCC into 100 divided by total volume of face centered cubic unit cell, which finally becomes equal to 74%. The vacant space in FCC is equal to 100 minus 74, that is 26%. Hence, the packing fraction in FCC is 0.74 and vacant space is 0.26. Okay, fraction of unoccupied space decreases in the following order. That is, simple cube is having maximum unoccupied space and FCC is having minimum unoccupied space. But the decreasing order of packing efficiency is FCC is having more, that is maximum packing efficiency, and simple cube is having minimum packing efficiency. Thus, CCP and SCP structures have maximum packing efficiency. Okay, to calculate density of unit cell in cubic crystal, we have the formula, that is density of unit cell D is equal to mass of unit cell. Mass of unit cell is equal to Zm divided by volume of unit cell, that is A cube. D is equal to Zm divided by A cube. D is equal to Z capital M divided by A cube into Na. Number of atoms per unit cell is Z. Mass of each atom is small m. Na is the Avogadro's number, which is equal to 6.023 into 10 to the power 23. By using this formula, we can calculate density of unit cell. Okay, let us discuss imperfections or irregularities in solids, which are known as crystal defects. These crystal defects are the irregularities in the arrangement of particles in solids. The defects are of two types, namely point defects and line defects. Point defects are the deviations from an ideal arrangement around a point or an atom in a crystalline substance. But the line defects are the deviations from an ideal arrangement in the entire rows of lattice points. Okay, let us discuss the types of point defects. Point defects can be classified into three types: stoichiometric defects, impurity defects, non-stoichiometric defects. Okay, stoichiometric defects are intrinsic or thermodynamic defects. These are the point defects which do not disturb the stoichiometry of the solid. Again, there are two types: vacancy defects and interstitial defects. Okay, vacancy defects is seen in a crystal when some of the lattice sites are vacant, and this defect causes decrease in the density of a solid. This defect is also seen when a substance is heated. This can be seen in the following picture. Okay, interstitial defect is seen when some foreign particles occupy an interstitial site, resulting in an increase in the density of a solid. This can be seen in the following picture. And both vacancy and interstitial defects are shown by non-ionic solids. Okay, ionic solids show mainly two types of defects, that is Frenkel and Schottky defects. Okay, first one is Frenkel defect, which is also called dislocation defect, and this defect is shown by ionic solids, which is due to the dislocation of smaller ion, which usually cation, from its normal site to an interstitial site. It does not change the density of a solid. This defect is shown by ionic substance in which there is a large difference in the size of ions, that means which are having low coordination number, and this defect is shown by ZnCl, AgCl, AgBr and AgI. And Frenkel defect creates a vacancy defect at its original site and an interstitial defect at its new location. This is the picture where you can see Frenkel defect. Okay, Schottky defect, which is also called vacancy defect. This is also seen in ionic solids, and this defect is due to missing of equal number of anions and cations from their crystal lattice in order to maintain electrical neutrality, and this defect causes decrease in the density of a crystal, and this defect is shown by ionic substances where the cation and anion are of almost similar sizes, having high coordination number, and this defect is shown by NaCl, KCl, cesium chloride and silver bromide. And AgBr is the solid which shows both Frenkel and Schottky defects. And this is a picture where you can see Schottky defect. Okay, impurity defects, and this defect is due to the presence of foreign atoms at the lattice sites or at the vacant interstitial sites. Okay, let us take an example of crystallization of sodium chloride containing little amount of strontium chloride, where some Na plus ions are occupied by strontium 2 plus ions. In this case, each Sr2 plus replaces two Na plus ions. That means one Sr2 plus ion occupies the site of one ion and the other site remains vacant, and hence the number of cationic vacancies produced is equal to number of strontium ions. Okay, this is the picture of vacancy impurity defect where cation, that is Sr2 plus ion, replaces two Na plus ions. Okay, third type of defects are non-stoichiometric defects. These are the point defects which disturb the stoichiometry of the solid. Again, there are two types: metal excess defects and metal deficiency defects. Okay, in metal excess defects, again there are two types: a metal excess defect due to anionic vacancies, and second one is metal excess defect due to the presence of extra cations at interstitial sites. Okay, let us discuss a metal excess defect due to anionic vacancies. This kind of defect is seen in a crystal due to the presence of excess metal ions and absence of anions from their lattice sides, leaving holes, and these holes are occupied by electrons to maintain electrical neutrality. The holes that are occupied by electrons are called F centers. F means Farbenzenter, which means colored center. And these F centers are responsible for the color of the compound. This is the picture where you can see a formation of F center in a crystal, which imparts color to the crystal. Okay, a metal excess defect due to anionic vacancies. Example is alkyl halides like sodium chloride, which gives yellow color, KCl which shows violet color, and lithium chloride which is having pink color. And the color of these crystals is due to the excitation of electrons when they absorb energy from the visible light falling on the crystals. Okay, metal excess defect due to the presence of extra cations at interstitial sites, and this kind of defect is seen in a crystal which is due to the presence of extra cations at interstitial sites and electrons at other sites to maintain electrical neutrality. An example is zinc oxide, which is white in color at room temperature, but on heating it loses oxygen and turns yellow on heating. A metal deficiency defect, and this kind of defect is seen in solids which contain less amount of metal compared to the stoichiometric proportion. Example is FeO, its composition is Fe 0.95 oxygen. Here some Fe2 plus ions are missing, and the loss of positive charge is compensated by the presence of a required number of Fe3 plus ions, and this kind of defect is called metal deficiency defect. Okay, let us discuss electrical properties of solids. Based on the conductivity, the solids are classified into mainly three types: conductors, insulators, and semiconductors. Conductors are the solids which are having conductivity values from 10 to the power 4 to 10 to the power 7 per ohm per meter. Examples are copper, silver. Insulators have conductivity values ranging from 10 to the power minus 20 to 10 to the power minus 10 per ohm per meter, and examples are rubber, plastic, wood. But the semiconductors have conductivity values ranging from 10 to the power minus 6 to 10 to the power 4 per ohm per meter. Examples are silicon, germanium. Okay, let us discuss how do metals conduct electricity. The electrical conductivity of metals is due to the movement of valence electrons. In metals, the energy gap between valence and conduction band is very small. Hence, the electrons can move easily from valence band to conduction band. Therefore, the metals are good conductors of electricity. Let us discuss how do semiconductors conduct electricity. In semiconductors, the energy gap between valence band and conduction band is small. Therefore, electrons can jump from valence band to conduction band on increasing the temperature or on adding impurities and show some conductivity. Okay, this is the picture of band diagram where we can see the small energy gap between conduction and valence band in case of metals where they can overlap easily, and there will be jump of electron from valence to conduction band, and hence metals are good conductors of electricity. But in case of insulators, there is large energy gap between valence and conduction band, hence they do not conduct electricity at all. But in case of semiconductors, the energy gap between valence and conduction bands is small. Hence, electrons can jump easily from valence band to conduction band only on heating or increasing the temperature, or only on adding impurities to semiconductors. Okay, let us know the different types of semiconductors. There are mainly two types: intrinsic semiconductors and extrinsic semiconductors. Okay, intrinsic semiconductors are the insulators at normal temperature but become good conductors on increasing the temperature. Examples are pure silicon, pure germanium. Extrinsic semiconductors are the insulators at normal temperature but become good conductors on doping or adding impurities. Example is silicon doped with boron. Okay, let us know the definition of doping and dopants. Doping is the process of increasing the conductivity of intrinsic semiconductors by adding an appropriate amount of suitable impurity. But the dopants are suitable impurities added to the intrinsic semiconductors to increase their conductivity. Examples of dopants are boron, aluminum. Okay, now let us discuss the different types of extrinsic semiconductors. There are mainly two types: N-type semiconductors and P-type semiconductors. Okay, N-type semiconductors are obtained by doping pentavalent impurity atoms, that is group 15 elements, example phosphorus, arsenic, with the tetravalent silicon or germanium, which are group 14 elements. And here electrons are the charge carriers. Okay, P-type semiconductors are obtained by doping trivalent impurity atoms, that is group 13 elements, examples aluminum, boron, with the tetravalent silicon or germanium, that is group 14 elements. Here holes are the charge carriers. Okay, this is a picture where we can see perfect crystal which can be converted into N type or P type. Okay, if you dope with arsenic, it becomes N type. If you dope with boron, it becomes P type. In case of N type, mobile electrons are the charge carriers, but in case of P type, positive holes are the charge carriers. Okay, let us know the applications of N type and P type semiconductors. These are used for making electronic components, and they are used to design diode. Diode is a combination of N and P type semiconductors, and that can be used as a rectifier. And they are also used to make transistors, which can be made by sandwiching a layer of one type of semiconductor between two layers of other type of semiconductor, like NPN and PNP type. And they are used to detect or amplify radio or audio signals. And they are also used in making solar cell, which is an efficient photodiode used for the conversion of light energy into electrical energy. Let us discuss the magnetic properties of solids. Every substance has some magnetic properties present in it due to the presence of electrons. Each electron in an atom behaves like a tiny magnet. Its magnetic moment is due to the presence of two types of motions. First one is orbital motion of electron around the nucleus and spin of electron around its own axis. These are the two types of motions which are responsible for magnetic moment of an electron in a solid. Magnitude of this magnetic moment is very small and is measured in the unit called Bohr magneton, that is mu b. Its value is 9.27 into 10 to the power minus 24 ampere meter square. Okay, this is a picture where we can see the two different types of motions of electron, that is orbital motion and spin. Okay, let us discuss the classification of materials or solids based on their magnetic properties. There are mainly 5 types: paramagnetic substance, diamagnetic substance, ferromagnetic substance, antiferromagnetic substance, and ferrimagnetic substance. Okay, paramagnetic substances are the substances which are weakly attracted by a magnetic field, and they are magnetized in a magnetic field in the same direction, but they lose their magnetism in the absence of magnetic field. Okay, paramagnetism is due to the presence of one or more unpaired electrons which are attracted by the magnetic field. Examples are O2, copper 2 plus, Fe3 plus, and chromium 3 plus ion. Second type is diamagnetic substances which are weakly repelled by a magnetic field. Examples are H2O, NaCl, and benzene. They are weakly magnetized in a magnetic field in opposite direction. Diamagnetism is shown by those substances in which all the electrons are paired. That means there are no unpaired electrons. Pairing of electrons cancels their magnetic moments, and hence diamagnetic substances lose their magnetic character. Diamagnetic substances are not attracted by magnetic field due to the absence of unpaired electrons. Third type is ferromagnetic substances. They are attracted very strongly by a magnetic field. They show permanent magnetism even in the absence of magnetic field. Examples are iron, cobalt, nickel. In solid state, the metal ions of ferromagnetic substances are grouped together into small regions called domains. Thus, each domain acts as a tiny magnet. Fourth type is antiferromagnetic substances. They have unpaired electrons but not attracted by a magnetic field because equal number of unpaired electrons are moving in opposite directions. Hence their magnetic moment gets cancelled. Example is manganese oxide. Fifth one is ferrimagnetic substances. They have the unpaired electrons but weakly attracted by a magnetic field because unequal number of unpaired electrons are moving in opposite directions. Examples are ferrites, magnetite, that is Fe3O4, and MgFe2O4 and ZnFe2O4. They lose ferrimagnetism on heating and become paramagnetic. Okay, this is the schematic diagram for different types of magnetic substances. In case of ferromagnetic substances, all the magnetic moments are in the same direction. In case of antiferromagnetic, equal number of magnetic moments are oriented in opposite directions. But in the case of ferrimagnetic substances, unequal number of magnetic moments are oriented in opposite directions. Thank you.